Call to order. What is it, 4 minutes after 10? Adopt the agenda. Everybody read the agenda? Wayne will give me that?
No, I want to do an update on my report.
Okay.
Or update.
All right, just make sure your microphones are in front of you so that the stream and our teleconference counselors can hear.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I was just going to ask that, Andrew, because I couldn't hear Wayne. I could hear Dave good.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I would like to do an update on my report, please.
On your provincial report?
ASB Provincial Committee report.
It's on there.
I've got an update.
One update, so it'll be, you're going to give us that when it's, or you want a separate number for it, Wayne?
You could just do it after the
Do it after your
committee reports.
committee reports. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Anybody else? Need a mover? I'll give you the. What?
I'll move it. Move it.
That's no good. Any other? All in favor? Carried.
In favor?
Favor? Adopt the minutes. Everybody scoured the minutes. We're good?
I'll move the minutes.
Long time ago.
I'm gonna go minutes.
Very move the minutes.
Terry, move the minutes. Okay. Any questions on them? Everybody's good? Call the motion. All in favor? Carried. Now we'll go down delegations. There is none. And Agricultural Service Board Administration Report on page 3.
So we have, Larry, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. There.
All right, so we'll start with strychnine. So we had a pretty quick season selling strychnine. We sold out in about 2.5 weeks. About 5 days of sales. We sold 2,074 bottles. That's right in line with our average for a whole year's worth of sales for the last 5 years. And so due to the COVID situation, we've been put on a purchasing waiting list with Agromax, our supplier. We have placed an order for another 90 cases for this year, and we're still waiting for a call back on that. No word yet on whether that'll be filled this year or whether it'll be filled next year. So we're waiting on that one. Rental equipment. So again, it seems like it's going to permeate through everything, but due to the COVID situation, we shut down our rental program for about a month and a half. We weren't renting out our cattle scale or any magpie traps, things like that. We've begun doing that again with a few alterations to the program. We've limited interaction between staff and ratepayers. Whoever's renting equipment is able to pick it up outside the door. We get credit card information over the phone. We're able to take payment that way, and that way we're just limiting any access to the building and to staff. And so far it's been good. We haven't really heard any complaints at the shop there. So far it's been working well. Our roadside vegetation program is running smoothly. We've actually sprayed about 100 miles of road, and that's both sides of the road, so 200 miles of roadside. That's in the north third of the county, so roughly we've been in the Red Willow to south of Denelda area and north of 601. We've also done some brush spraying by the lake, and so we're actually touching up some areas that we hit at the start of the year right now, and then we'll be moving north to Denelda and west of Denelda shortly.
What percentage would you have done, Ryan?
That'd be roughly 50.
50%?
Yeah, we've been clipping along pretty good on that. We've also got plans to head down to the river and check on some weed inspections and some spraying that we did down at Mackenzie Crossing in that general area down on the Red Deer River. We have a pretty healthy stand of tansy down right at Mackenzie Crossing that we attacked last year. And we did roughly about a week of work down there, and we're hoping to get back down there and see what kind of regrowth we've got and try to control it before flowering. And that way we're going to stop the seed set and hopefully set it back for another year. Moving on to the gravel pit vegetation control and reclamation. So our pits that we've been focusing on for reclamation, we've sprayed We've actually added some additional topsoil in spots where it was a bit thin, and so we're going to get some new grass seed on that. I've got a picture at the end that shows kind of the growth that we've got this year, and it's just been phenomenal. We've got one more down. There we go. So yeah, we've got about 2 or 3 feet tall grass on. That is the Denelda pit, and
So that's not the Clement pit.
no, that's not the Clement pit. So this is the east half of the Denelda pit. So yeah, we had great grass growth there, and in the forefront of the picture, we have some Canada thistle that was growing up in a little bit of a bare rocky patch. So that's what I'm talking about when I'm stating that we're going to add some additional topsoil. We're actually going to fill in those spots, throw in some grass seed, and try to stop that thistle before it gets away on us. We've also been on the Clement pit doing some spraying, as well as the Paint Earth Larson pit and the McKay pit. And those are all, 3 of those are in the same general area, as well as the Paint Earth one is just over the border. We do have a little bit of absinthe control in the Paint Earth Larson pit, but we'll be able to handle it. For the rest of the gravel pits, we've already done our first round on, and we're going to be tackling our second round here just to control any misses as well. Anybody have any questions so far? I've kind of flipping along through there.
James?
You talked to, Quentin, you might know better, and Rick, we talked a while back, and this is going back maybe a year and a half, maybe 2 years. We were going to spray just the outside edge of the roads, and get 4 years ago. Is that how far? And we never did get back on that, did we? We didn't find out. I didn't find out what the final result was. It didn't work, or what was it?
It worked when we booked for it. You're happy. Okay, it did work for a short period of time, and it was a trial. The stuff that we got onto early enough that the grass hadn't got knee deep did fairly well. The issue there, I guess, is maintaining that road top there and getting the grader operators to continue tabletopping all the way out to the shoulder. The habits are always try to cut inside the grass, and then that allows it to grow up again. So the few spots we did, the best one I think was down in Les's area that we got onto early, and it did really good for a while, but stuff did grow back the next year, et cetera, et cetera. The other ones did okay. Some of the ones we didn't get to until about this time of year, where the grass was already pretty high, and the grader operators weren't able to do much with it, although it did kill the grass off pretty good. And then when they did go and do their little bit of shoulder pulling later in the year, they had a lot less to deal with, because most of that stuff would pretty much fall into the ditch already from its dead height.
The reason I'm asking is because it was, and maybe it's the year, right? We've got a lot of quick grass growth this year, and you're noticing our road tops are getting shorter and shorter. I mean, those pulls aren't there, and I get it because the grass is there. I mean, in my area, I notice there's trees growing on the roadside now too, right?
I was down 20-1 getting mulch last night, and a whole bunch of little trees are coming in a meter off the shoulder. The grass is tall. Then you go a mile or so later, and there's hardly anything growing. So it is spotty.
What made me twig was the fact that about that spraying, and I was going to ask that question today.
I like the idea myself. I think it's going to help the grader operators retrieve that gravel off the mounds and the shoulders and reshape. But it's also one of those things that's labor intensive. We got to get out there and do it, and then we got to get the graders on top of it to peel them apart afterwards as well. So there's a lot to it.
Wayne was up first.
And what would soil sterilant work in a case like that, or would it wash down into the ditch?
Probably going to wash down into the ditch. Yeah, that's asking for trouble in a lot of cases, because it might get washed into the ditch and then into the farmer's field, and then we might have a phone call at some point.
Arnie?
Better?
Point towards you and be a little closer.
Into me. Now, we've handled all our own laneway that way. In the springtime, you spray it with Roundup. It'll kill the grass back. Then shortly after that, you'll have the broadleaf. So then you have to spray it. With ourselves, we'll have to spray ours at least twice, maybe 3 times a year in order to really control it back down the part of where
if you're working with the blades, that it'll control it to that. So if it's going to be a 2 or 3 pass, it's going to be a lot more spraying that we're going to have to do, a lot more expenses.
We could try like the railway tracks and just steam them. That's what they used to do to get rid of the weeds on the railway tracks, is just run the steam up and down there and get rid of them. Kill the weeds somehow. It would be natural. I could see you guys getting the steam truck.
We're going to get the steam train on the gravel road.
They gotta use that new steam truck they got. Pressure washer. Let's see. Yeah.
Go ahead, Ryan.
Moving on, we've got a couple of beaver dams that were removed. One was removed by hand on the intersection of 17-0 and 39-0. Water was coming up just next to a bridge right next to that dam there. So we took that one out by hand because the picture doesn't show it, but it's about 15, maybe 20 feet away from the bridge just upstream of it. So we dropped the water in that about 2 feet. And then on the southeast of 19, 39-19, we also removed one with dynamite. We have one scheduled for possibly this week, likely next week, for removal up in the Denelda area. And that's all we've got for beaver dam removal on the docket right now.
Dave, I've got a question if I can.
Go ahead, we'll let you go, Larry, sure.
Ryan, the one you took out by hand, was that the one Vic Carey phoned in?
It was, yes.
Okay, so we'll be monitoring to make sure, because that'd be quite a task, wasn't it?
And this is the one at 17-0 and 39-0. It was just next to the bridge, just south about south of Vic Carey's house. So,
yeah, and just on the west side of the road.
Yes, that was the one.
Okay, and have we had any requests from landowners to dynamite any yet?
That is the one that we've got up on the docket right now. That is going to be up in, can't recall the exact legal off the top of my head, but it's in 4219. So it's just a mile south of the Camrose County border.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Larry. Go ahead, Wayne.
I was just wondering if you had a video of that dynamite.
We got a video somewhere, but we just got the picture in this right here.
Pretty good picture, actually.
It was.
It'll make the calendar next year.
I would hope.
No, that's good.
That is all I have for the report at the moment. Does anybody else have any questions?
I need a mover for his report. Sheree moves it. That's it. Any more questions? No? All in favor?
Favor?
All are unanimous. Thanks, Ryan. Moving on. Now we got no new business. We got cyanide purchase, page 6. 7.2 or 7.1.
RFD. So relating to the report, so our county's supply of liquid strychnine ran out after 2.5 weeks of sales. So we currently have no inventory, but we had demand. So we've got several options that we've laid out on the table here. If you guys would like me to read them, they're a little bit wordy, but we have placed an order for 90 cases. We don't know when that order will be filled. So we can place an additional order. We can hold back strychnine for next year. We can sell it all this year and order more. And that's basically, those 3 options are laid out in the 5 options below. Does anybody have any thoughts on how we should proceed?
Thoughts?
Brian, that we can only sell it till next year. So we've got 2 years to sell it then.
Essentially next season. Because we can sell it after July 31st.
James?
Was that question, can we only sell it till next year, or what the dates were? Because when is the final date that we can sell it as far as a year goes?
Give Yvette a microphone.
July 31st, 2022.
Oh,
2021.
March 4,
March 4th.
2022.
Okay, March 4th, 2022.
So we could sell it in March of that year.
Right.
So we would have 2 more sales cycles.
We have 2 years to sell it and it doesn't go bad, right?
We don't normally start selling until April, but in that last year, we could start selling in February for 2022.
Yeah, I just feel we've got a lot of producers that realize they've got something being taken away again, and the gopher population certainly isn't decreasing. And if they start giving us that gopher candy again, it does nothing to control gophers. So I don't know. I think we should be stocked up and sell it to our landowners right up till that end. If we have to start in February to sell it for that last year, at least they've got the 2022 year, and hopefully we can lobby the government to get this silly rule removed. That's my thoughts.
Wayne, you're up. Oh, James was up too.
So, I think that gopher candy just makes them pregnant, but that's.
It's not even a good contraceptive.
I haven't actually looked at the regulations that are coming out. Is there a loophole in the regulations that we're not allowed to sell it, but we could give it away? If we did not charge for it,
The camera, please.
I'm serious about this. If they're going to pull, and I will call it BS like this, changing that, then we need to start thinking outside the box and be creative. If it is a case of the rule says you can't sell it, but the rule doesn't say we can't give it away, there's an opportunity for us to look after our producers. And our goal, as I think, as council or as board members for ASB, is to look after the best interest of our producers. That being said, without breaking the rules, can we bend them heavily and make that happen? I'm in favor of getting extra strychnine selling in the first part of 22 up to the maximum that we can. And if we have to afterwards, if we can, if it's a possibility, that's good money spent on the county of Stettler's ratepayers on their behalf to give strychnine away.
Their problem is what it is.
It is. We're solving a problem. I don't know the rules and regulations, but I'd like to look into it.
Ryan, you're up.
And a loophole.
One thing I will say is strychnine possession by the end user is prohibited after March 4th, 2023.
We'll get another year. Is there a fine with having it after 2023?
There would be some sort of deterrence.
No, Alberta Agriculture won't come and find us. They're all they're all fired.
To speak to this here problem we have now, we so only allow guys that own 25 quarters, 30 quarters to get 2 cases of strychnine.
And that's.
I had 2 of them.
We could still have that restriction in place, David. I mean, if we're giving it away. I mean,
But what I'm saying is, like the guy said, yeah, that covered 3 of them quarters, and what do I do with the rest of them? So I think there's quite a market out there, because I think there's a guy sitting around this table that didn't get any. Did you get any, Ryan?
I didn't get any this year, nope.
And you probably used it.
Taking your guns away. So what are we supposed to do? Let's buy sticks. Go out there and club them. Oh yeah, animal rights. We're screwed.
But anyhow, no, I think we should buy them. That's my personal.
No, what's the maximum we can buy? What are you guys asking here for?
You can buy. You can buy 100. It's an investment, though, isn't it, Yvette?
I've got a purchase order from Quentin on my desk right now for 110 cases.
Not more than that. We get more than that.
More than that. But I just want you to know that if you get stuck with it, it becomes an expense. Right now, on our balance sheet or our operating statement, it works as an in and out. The revenue offsets the expenses, so it's 0. if we get stuck with it, I guess we could use it on some of our quarters of land, but, it will become an expense,
What are we talking expense here?
30,000.
$30,000. Last time they sold out in 2.5 weeks. And
Get stuck with it.
for that total year, so that's all we had was 80 some cases.
90 and a half.
That's all we sell. Like, we're selling anywhere from 60 to 90, and I agree. This year, I think it's like, you're taking away the candy, so I'm gonna stock up on it. So that's why.
I don't think farmers should do that, but maybe.
Right.
But if we look at it for next year also too, to the fact that that landowner that does have 25 quarters is eligible to get more cases in order to properly give one last run at them. Like that, somebody could be coming in and wanting 25 or 30 cases.
Some that want 6 to 10, so I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, in realistic, if they had to do every quarter, or not every quarter, every section, I guess, yeah, they'd be 6 to 10 cases. But I don't think we're gonna, especially over the next if we got 2 more selling cycles, and people know that it's going away, I don't think there's gonna be any issue getting rid of it.
I concur.
So give us a number of what you want us to order.
Well, if you got a PO on your desk,
That's for 110. That puts us up to 200 cases. So 100 cases next year and 100 cases the next spring. Do you want us to?
150 on both of those.
Yes.
I think.
Maybe you want us, instead of 110, to order 210 more cases? That gives you 150 basically for the next 2 years. We can sell it.
Yeah, I'm fair with that. And I think we have to, Mr. Chairman, if we could, but I think we have to review
Who's got the floor?
that we are, and I don't necessarily think that we need to give it out at one time. Like, I'm not in favor of having an individual come in and pick up 10 cases at one time, but if he wants to, there's a little bit of onus on the producer to say, okay, I really need this, it's important to me, I will come in and get a second drop, but I don't want to drop off 10 cases to one individual at a time. I think we have to balance it out somewhere to say that it's fair, but you don't get it all at one time. I don't think the guy's going to do all 25 quarters in a matter of 3 days. If he comes 1 week and gets 3 cases, and next week 3 cases, and the next week might work.
My idea was that they allowed you to have 2 cases. The ones that have multiple, like 25, 30 quarters, if they got 4 cases and then, they couldn't get any more for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, I think that would be a proper thing, and then they could get another 4.
Let them see what they do with the first 4 or whatever. That might be something. I don't know. Do we have a policy, or is that just a practice right now for you guys?
Practice right now is 2 cases per purchase. So you can come in on Tuesday and purchase 2 cases and come back in on Thursday and purchase 2 cases. That's the way the practice goes right now.
Okay, so then that's good. The practice is we don't need to change anything now.
Practice is all right, and I think that if we would have had another 60 cases, we probably would have been all right this year. Maybe. Go ahead, Ernie.
You can also look back on what the history has been with some landowners of what they have utilized in the past. In case we look at that someone's going to be hoarding it, and others could really definitely use it. I don't want to see someone hoarding it for this year or next year and depleting someone's this year. We could use discretion, saying, okay, this is what you utilized in the past. Let's keep that going in that route. Also, did we not lend some to another county really in the last year or something?
We purchase for Lacombe. That's how that works. We purchase for Lacombe so that Lacombe doesn't get nailed with a large shipping cost. And so because if we order enough cases, it comes free or reasonably charged, and then Lacombe takes their 20 cases. So we didn't sell it to them. They had already ordered it. Just worked together on it.
Wayne? Or who was up?
I think Wayne was up.
Wayne was up? Okay.
If you look back at the history, it looks like we've used between 2,000 and 2,500 roughly cases a year, bottles, a year. So 85 to 110 cases. So I think that's likely what the use is gonna be from in the future.
The only thing is, Wayne, that I think we've always sold out, and I think what we're doing is there are some producers that have missed out, and I have a few guys that and it was about timing. We had kind of a weird spring. It was cold, and they weren't seeing the gophers right out of the get go, and now they're saying, "Oh crap! I wish I would have got some," and they just can't.
Oh, I'm not saying that. I think we should order
Okay, yeah.
extra, make sure we've got, but, you know, we know about, that's over a period of, 4 years, I guess. 5 years. And it's been up and down there, so you know, it's likely gonna stay about the same for usage. Let's have some extra. Rest on ratepayers.
We're live streaming.
Before Les starts there. Yeah, sometimes it's your neighbors, if they don't poison their gophers, they appreciate it when you do get them poisoned. Beside the county shop, I rent that, I got a long-term lease on it. And we put, on the first 90 acres, there were 22 gallons on there. And at least now we can send the small calves up there, because I was scared they're gonna drag them down the hole. There's not many of them there. And now there's still a few, but it thinned them out to where the grass actually will grow. And what is it, 52 gophers eat as much as a cow? I think if you do your back in, when they kept track of stuff. And I took out lots of so I probably put 33 jugs on that half section. And there's not, the cows are out there grazing now, but, you know, so I think we put another 5 cows out there to what we did a year ago. That's just one, for instance. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think we need to up our order too, because I think once the producers realize that this legal use of strychnine is being taken away, they will hit their fields harder in the next couple of years to try to get ahead of try to control them. So I think the usage likely will be higher than our history is showing. So I think we need to bump the order, and we'll never be stuck with it, because other municipalities will likely take any excess we have anyway. So I think it's a pretty safe bet.
I would like to do that because I know some might have come from Saskatchewan and being used here, and I would not want to see that. I would like to see us be the people that sell it and the people that control it.
On a number, can we throw a number of 3,000 bottles? See what we can work.
Just go by the case.
Let's go by the case.
But six bottles in a case?
We talked about 300 cases, 150 this year, 150 next year.
We'll just up the purchase order to 210, and we currently have 90 on order, so that gives us.
That should do her.
I'd make the motion that we order 210 cases of strychnine.
Any more conversation about it?
Should probably have what rough value of 210 cases, just so that everybody is aware of the dollar value. That is computer out.
60?
$45,288.
60,500.
I wasn't.
Okay, I guess I missed it by 500, and I only did it in my head. Okay. Okay, so you make the motion, James. You're going to stay here for a minute to vote for it, please. Ryan?
One thing I will say is, in this RFD, we also have the option of when we should sell it. Whether if, let's say, in a week, we receive 100 cases. Should we sell those 100 cases, or should we hold them till next year? Also, theoretically, if we were to receive 200 cases, should we sell all of them this year, or hold any for next year? So the timing is also a part of this RFD.
I think that it'll control itself. I don't think people are gonna, if they know they can get it to next year, I don't think they're going to hoard it.
I think we can leave that up to management to make that decision. If they see that there's a run on it, maybe they could.
But a run, like I said, I didn't inherit that problem till a year ago. And now I got a problem out there. I don't have it anymore.
If a person can explain to them what the situation is, I think that's the proper findings, right? I mean, if you got something suspicious coming in, somebody's just, you think are hoarding, I think we should leave it up to the administration to be able to figure that one out. And then if at that point, if that person has an issue, then they can always go to their counselor and talk to them about it.
If somebody comes in and wants 10 cases or something, no, they come to get their two and get their two, and they'll be using them then, because they won't bother washing around with it. Okay, James made the motion. Any more discussion? No, all in favor?
Favor.
All in favor, done, carry on. So you know where you're going now, Ryan, right?
Gotcha.
Mowing program.
Yeah, so we just put together a small graph here, and I hope everybody can read those. Well, that small typing there, but basically this just displays our total number of hours that were spent mowing at each site between May 18th and June 12th. And so the 5 sites that required the most man hours were Botha, Gadsby, Erskine, BVE, and Roshan Sands Estates, in that order. So that was just a short little demo there, just to show exactly where we were spending our time with the mowing crew. Does anybody have any questions on that?
Actually, Ryan, I do.
Go ahead, Larry.
Ryan, I see 80 hours for Gadsby in that time period. Rick and I met out there. I don't see, was that staking lots? Was that driving out to look at what you had to do? Because there wasn't 80 hours of arse time on a lawnmower in Gadsby in that time period. Because we had 1/2 a day that the girls did a very, very hit and miss mow. And then the second day I met Rick out there, that we'd had a crew of 4 that were working very hard, but they'd worked the day before and then that morning. So I don't know how it would add up to 80 hours. So I just was a little curious on our timetables and how we're charging stuff out.
I'm not exactly sure if that includes travel time, but yes, we did have several days where we had 4 crews of 4 out there, as well as myself. So we had at least 5 men out there during any given time. And so that
several days, like Ryan, I'm sorry, but I've been watching it. You were out there one day with several men, and I met Rick the second day. And those girls were there a short part day because Rick and I had a very strong discussion. So all I'm saying is if we're tracking stuff, make sure that people are tracking their time properly if we're going to put down graphs, because I can't add it up with 4 mowers to get that many hours. So that's all I'm asking is, because when we're presenting stuff like this, because these hamlets are going to be under the gun and they have higher expectations, I understand, but in the same sense, once people know what they're supposed to cut, I understand it should take shorter time, but we're going to have more of these coming in, so we're going to have to understand how to do it, or if it's going to truly take us this much time, maybe we have to look at how we're doing it too. I just went through this night before last, and I was quite shocked when I saw those numbers, because I've been monitoring the grass cutting in Gadsby closely.
If I can help with the hours, Rick. So
Yeah,
Larry specifically, the day we met out there, and I believe some of the hours also included spray time out there, Ryan, not just, so vegetation control by spraying, not just mowing. That was just a mowing, okay? So they actually spent 2 full days out there around the day that we talked out there, plus the girls had spent better part of a day out there. So those are individual man hours. So if we had a 4-man crew, 2 days out there, and it was, I believe, a Thursday and a Friday, and then the girls had had their 2/3 of a day out there before that, it does get pretty close to 80 hours in a pretty big hurry. That said, when we met out there was when all the work was going on, and they did go back. They were going to spend the next morning there, or part of the morning, and I think they spent the bulk of the day out there, if I recall, carrying on the areas.
They pulled out fairly. Not. I come home and had dinner, Rick, and it wasn't long after, and they were on the road. So anyhow, no, I just want to make sure that we are. If it's being tracked properly, that's the question I'm asking, because I just don't want.
It is being tracked properly. All the different sites are noted on the timesheet for when they put the attention into it, and yeah, I mean, it's Gadsby does require a lot of work. It's a lot of handwork. just because of the way the ditches are, so it does accumulate a lot of hours in a pretty big hurry. That said, we have tripped up a few times, mainly from a calculated risk perspective, not a intentional miss on anything, but we have had other programs running. And when we did send the girls out there initially to just try and touch things up everywhere, and we had talked about that, that wasn't our mowing crew, and we hadn't got our funding yet for any students. We've got a full 4-man crew running out there now, and things are catching up quickly. But the goal of that first thing, and I know you were disappointed in the results, was very much about showing a presence, getting some shoulders cut, and just starting so we can slowly push back farther. Had we not got the grant funding and got those 4 students on, I'd have, potentially grader operators and everybody else out there trying to find time to cut grass, and that would have been an issue. But we had, from a calculated risk perspective, lower prioritized the mowing initially and brought up the prioritization of all the road maintenance due to all the rain we've been having, and a couple of the other things were going on, like the gravel program, and put the bulk of the staff on those things, trying to get a big jump on them. Normally at this time of year, we're behind the 8 ball regardless on the mowing, because you can't go in there and start cutting early because nothing's grown yet. By the time we get a crew running, the grass is growing, and the grass is growing faster than they can get around. But with the addition of a couple of community associations taking on responsibility this year, the crew being staffed, we're going to have this thing knocked back in a real big hurry now.
Yes, and I guess, Rick, go forward, if we don't have the student programs, as it expands with hamlets, we're going to have to really look at how we do that and how we budget that, because if it's either that or people have to expect a lot less, eh? So it's one thing, we either got to get the message out that their grass isn't going to be cut and it's just going to be road edges, and this year, yes, you guys are busting your tails out there now. I fully understand. I appreciate it. It was just, okay, when I saw that, I was going to give a call just prior to this, but I didn't, and when I saw that 80 hours, I just couldn't see how it added up, but you've explained it, so thank you.
Yeah, and no question, we are learning as we go, and the patchwork we did initially was large because I reprioritized other things as a little bit higher priority, getting going on gravel, looking after the road maintenance at every grader possible every time we could get out to look after the roads, and specifically I put a lower priority on the mowing at that point.
Okay, thank you.
Questions on the mowing? Go ahead.
Me, Mr. Chairman. I think, we struggled a little bit with the rain and actually a schedule. And one of the biggest problems we have, especially in the hamlets and at the lake, is that we go into an area, we have a pretty good idea from maps of what we're supposed to do, and 5 people run outside, run up to the guy in charge or the guys on the mower, and, well, can you do this? Can you just do a couple more feet here? Can you just mow the start of this trail? Can you get this ditch? They take pride in where they live, which is great, but they don't want to do the work. They just want to sit back. I pay tax. So I want to
Glad and watch somebody else.
I want to watch you to do it. So I think once we really get a firm understanding of what it is exactly that we're supposed to do, and stick to it, and don't do extras, and then stay on the rotation, just like we do with the graders. The grader goes in. You don't see him every 2 weeks. You see him every 3 weeks. But if it starts to rain, he goes back to where he left off. And he just finishes that rotation and goes back. Every time you pull these guys to do something extra, it takes time and it gets them off schedule. The lake is our biggest. They demand a high level of service, and they, unfortunately, a lot of them are retired, and when they do their requests, they want it done the next day, and we have to stop jumping to that. I'm guilty of that, and it's a different way of thinking. Like, okay, fine, we'll mow your berm, but you might not see us there for 3 weeks. When we're there, we'll mow it. It's a culture shift, so we're going to take a little bit of heat, I think. But as people adjust and people adjust their expectations, then I think it will be fine. Very lucky we've had Indiang, Bymore, and Red Willow take over the mowing of their areas. Bymore's doing a great job. they're rototilling the sand, like they've done over and above. If I would have known that they would have taken this kind of ownership in their community, we probably should have did this, Rick, 5 years ago? Yeah, because we'll never even be able to compete with how pretty, those hamlets are going to look. So.
They took pride in their community, which just doesn't surprise me at all. Tree.
So the rotation for the mowing is 3 weeks?
I think it's just basically probably once every 2 weeks, I think, with the mowing, would you say? Yeah, it goes a little quicker than a grader beat. Yeah.
If I may on that as well, with the Endiang and the Bymore and the Red Willow taking those sites away from us, we should be back to 2 weeks or less. We're also toying with the idea of a day in each area rather than go and finish something, so that very much like the grader beats, you follow your map. Next time you get there, you're going to carry on from where you left off. There might be a varying level of grass, but if we're seeing more often rather than risking that we go 2 weeks and we catch a bunch of rain and then we can't get there on any kind of a schedule and we're another week behind. If we're there more often, doing less each time, but everybody sees us more often, it might have a better presence in the way it works. So we're going to play around with that a little bit too.
Good. To that one, Rick, it may be a culture that you're going to have to change, but what you're going to happen is we're going to get a ton of phone calls, because as soon as you go there for a day and don't finish, they're going to be phoning like crazy. They didn't cut this and they didn't cut that and they didn't cut that. Won't be an issue in my area because it's just the Erskine landfills, which we're probably billing back hopefully to the Erskine or to the transfer waste management.
But
there's no mowing in my areas.
Towns in your area. Ward. Yeah, he has no towns in it.
Dave, can I speak?
Go ahead. You guys
Yeah,
right?
Yvette, I just want to state though, like you said about the lake, like you drive through the hamlets and there's people that take a lot of pride in where they live.
I agree.
And they're cutting a lot more than what their yard is, and Rick and I saw that day we were out there. So that's when that note came out yesterday, when I understood where James put his, the comment about that place in Bath. It just depends if it's a little bit of work to do something and somebody's willing to cut that every day or every time they cut their grass and keep it up, it will save us in the long run. And we've got people in these hamlets that do want to make them look nice. So, if we get the ground rules kind of laid out, then they do know what to expect, and hopefully we can, have them look as nice as we can with the time that we have.
You're done?
Yeah, I'm done, Dave.
Okay. James?
So Larry, to that comment, the only thing that I was saying is that I think council should be taking the direction. That's not an infinite grant money. My concern with that is if we're using grant money to fill in ditches when we need to do water and sewer projects later on down the road, I want to make sure that that money's being utilized for the best possible infrastructure. Filling in a ditch or creating a ditch for a drainage project might be something that we can do more as a service work than a capital purchase. And I think that grant money should be used for what I would say bigger projects where we can leverage it. Maybe we could use it to get a water and sewer project. That's my concern with that. I don't want us to basically, and for lack of a better word, piss it away on filling in ditches when we could be using it for putting in a fire hydrant or putting in something along that other lines. That's my only comment on that. And that's why I wanted to have that discussion, because I wanted to make sure that administration understood, feel that I think that it should be done from that grant money should be done on bigger infrastructure projects. Filling in a ditch might be something that we do over a 4-year period, and we do it as part of our service program, not part of a big capital purchase. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, and with those
ahead,
projects,
Larry.
that's something we can't discuss in council. Sorry, Dave.
Go ahead.
But because of the way that drainage is in that town, I thought that it maybe would fall in as part of that project, because drainage is a major problem in Botha, so as it is in all hamlets. So anyhow,
Good.
yeah, we can discuss it further
You
after.
could build them in sloughs, it'd be all right.
Oh, look,
Yeah,
this way.
And your hand up higher, you hide down behind them.
You know, in the town of Stettler, if you don't mow your boulevard, you're in trouble, right? You get fined or they beat you up. So, I think with Gatsby and Both as their two newest hamlets, they're probably some people are used to mowing their boulevard, some aren't because the village did it for them. Erskine's always been a problem. Very few do you get people that will mow their boulevards, but that's something that we could look at doing is putting in a bylaw that you mow your boulevard just like you shovel your sidewalk, or you're open to a fine. And that would take some work away too, because the boulevards are all pretty steep and require a lot of weed whacking. That's when it gets labor intensive.
All about level of service.
Yep, it is, and what we can afford at the end of the day. Anybody else on the mowers? Wayne?
Just from reading the requests that come in, ratepayer requests, just my opinion that some people are pushing the envelope just a little bit, since they have become hamlets, well, how much will the county do to look after us, sort of thing. So that's just my opinion. So
Your opinion is rather than push the envelope, they should push more?
well, if Yvette said, well, maybe could you just do this extra, and we're good guys, we usually do it.
Well, and I think
Less money.
when their taxes have went down to what they probably are going to, being part of the county, then they have to do a little mowing. Big deal. That's just part of the game.
Perhaps in a community organization that would do that, like they do.
Three in here already that do that, apparently.
Both is a little bit bigger, but Gatsby is a relatively small hamlet, so there might be a group that would do that for money too. It's hard to say.
I always refer it to it's like a new toy because they dial the number and somebody answers the phone. They're
Grandkids.
5 days a week, village office, an afternoon on a Wednesday or something. So they pick up the phone, they see a problem or they have a concern. They pick up the phone, they dial the number, we answer it, and it's like, whoa. So this is what I was phoning for.
Better say something.
Yeah. That'll wear off a little bit. But, yeah.
I see. Well, some of them are pretty happy. I tell you, the young people in Botha are quite happy with what's going on. The cost of their taxes and everything else and the service they get. Anybody else take a run at this? No? I'll receive for information. Les will do that. Will? In favor? Carried. Larry, what are you doing? You voting or not?
favor, I thought I was off mute, but I was on mute.
Oh, you were? Oh, okay. What are you doing? You're against it?
I'm in favor.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, year-to-date budget. On page 9.
Budget report. Does anybody have any questions, anything striking? So our services and rentals, that was one point that I noticed here. I just want to double check on that. That 934 for the period balance, that's for the last period here, but that 6,500 year to date, I am going to double check on that because we didn't have rentals for the first month and a half, so I'm double checking that number. That may be a misprint.
I just moved it ahead like we normally do or whatever. What?
We did a journal entry.
We'll check that though.
I know what the problem was there. That is the only one that I wanted to point out right off the bat. But if anybody else has anything, I'd love to explain what's going on.
You're gonna move it? You shook your head?
Just
Go ahead.
And I guess the pasture rental doesn't come in until later in the year.
We haven't received pasture rental revenue yet, but nobody's put their cows out yet either, so
Okay.
that'll be coming in soon.
They don't turn out till what, July?
Turn into pasture this year then. Good pasture.
Yeah, hopefully, I would say so.
Bernie? You moved it? All in favor?
In favor?
Carried, unanimous. Now we go down to 11-1. Wayne?
Yes, if there's any questions coming from any of those reports, we did hire a new executive assistant for the provincial board, and the first meeting that we had was a virtual meeting yesterday. So she just on a steep learning curve, but she's got a lot of experience with government and with agriculture, so I'm sure she'll work in just fine. It was Linda Hunt is her name.
Where's she from?
I know Linda Hunt.
Probably do, because she's done some audits, some of the ASB audits, I think, Ryan, hasn't she?
After our last field visit in 2017 or 18, she was here. She's from Camrose.
Farm west of or east of Edmonton, on a quarter section over there someplace in what's the next county north of Camrose?
First? Strathcona County?
Beaver, Strathcona, Beaver probably. Where's she from? I think
She's lives there, and she's got a couple of kids that are growing, I guess, and either in school or out of school, but not young kids. And I think she's working just fine. One of the guys that applied for the job was Warren Noga from that works for RMA. He'd have been excellent, but he didn't know whether he could attend all the meetings or not, because our meetings are sometimes every time we kind of piggyback on the RMA and have our meetings, and they supply us a room at the conventions twice a year. So he was being involved with RMA. He didn't know whether he could make meetings or not. We thought that was a pretty important thing to be in attendance. Assistant to be in attendance at the meeting. So we did a update on the report card for the have it here or not, for the resolutions yesterday. And no, I don't have it with me, but there was some of the things were complete, accepted in principle, some were rejected, and needed more information. One I just want to make a comment on was the about compulsory education in the classroom, compulsory agriculture education in the classroom, and it was not a satisfactory, I guess, as far as we were concerned, the response that we got from it. But there was a response on there from the Alberta Teachers Association, and they said, thank you for your letter, and it was received for information. My comment was, as municipal people, several of us of the members there of the provincial committee I guess we're all counselors, from various places. And I said, we know what received for information means. It means
go nowhere.
That's the last step.
Yeah.
I don't know whether that has got much of a chance or not. Just one thing I wanted to mention, and I think I sent you an email or not, Quentin and Ryan, about this, but as of June the 1st, the Agriculture and Forestry have removed fusarium from Pest Act, and that was against the wishes. And we had a few meetings with some ministers and deputy ministers mostly, but also the minister in the past government, but the deputy ministers and assistant deputy ministers lobbying on behalf, or advocating at least on behalf of the Ag Service Boards of Alberta, 69 of them, who voted to leave it on, or I guess I think the resolution read to remove it from the Pest Act, and it was rejected at our conference. So it was kind of a disappointment to us, and I'm sure that Ryan and Quentin can relate to that. You know, it's the ASBs have the power given to them in the Agricultural ASB Act to look after the pests and things like that, and then it's kind of a top-down decision as far as we're concerned from the government, and it sort of gives the idea that it gives us the feeling, I guess, that they don't really consider us to be as the ASBs to be.
The minister doesn't show up at our 75th anniversary, so what
doing their job. So it was disappointment. We'd met with the Alberta seed growers a couple of times, and they were lobbying to have this removed from the Act, Fusarium removed from the Pest Act. Their argument was that they want to develop resistant seed. And we said, well, why not let Saskatchewan and Manitoba, where there's lots of Fusarium, do it there? They obviously have a way of treating the Fusarium infected seed with heat treating, fairly expensive, I guess, but they could do small lots and grow it here. But I don't understand their thought, but we wanted, as ASBs, as you know from the debate at some of the conferences, we wanted to keep it at bay as long as we could. So that was disappointed. That's basically what I wanted to add to my report. This thing, and I think I emailed that to you, Quentin, about the potential club root control shows promise in the lab. So it's just interesting thing was in Alberta Farm Express, June 15th. So if you get a chance to read it, have a look at it. Always something new. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks for passing that out to everybody.
Sure, you're up.
I'll expect an email.
Go ahead, sure, you're up next.
I was gonna ask a question on your first page. Under old business, the committee has addressed the lack of minister attendance. Now, has the minister replied back to that, why he hadn't been attending, or?
Well, I actually made a comment to Jake or whatever. Is that his name? ADM? Or assistant ADM, I should say, about that. And he said, so noted. And you know, we have expressed that, and he said he would let the minister know. So whether he has or not, I don't know.
I have another question to go with that.
All right, yeah. Actually, James is ahead of you on the second question.
Go ahead.
Oh, get at it.
I'm not even looking at James, sure, just.
When you sent a letter to the ATA, you also sent it to the government too, right? Because the government writes curriculum, and they will invite the ATA to come help them write it. But it's good to have the ATA to back it, because they'll help push for the education of agriculture. But it's the government that writes curriculum.
Yes, I wish I'd have brought the copy with me, but it was sent to the government. It was sent. Most of those things are sent to several different.
Yeah, and it's good.
The government.
Yeah, it's
ATA as well, of course, with education.
Yeah, it's good to have the backings of a lot of people to push for it. Maybe.
Response was a little disappointing.
Yeah. Well, did you guys send it to ASBA too, Alberta School Boards Association?
But I'll make a note of that. Yeah.
That would be good to back them too, and superintendents. What's the CAS, right?
Go ahead, James.
So, Mr. Chairman, what weed did we elevate to absent wormwood? We elevated, and then how did that process go? I can't remember. We basically in our area in the county of Stettler have made absent wormwood not a noxious weed, because we're not allowed to do that, but we're noxious weed. That with Fusarium in our own little area still, can we make this something? And here's what I think we should do. All 48 counties that are in favor of that, start this and make the process started.
You won't get Tabor to do it because of
Well, I realize that, but at least we can.
you will.
We will send a note to the provincial government. Whoa, these guys they're serious about it.
Idea, and Sebastian from AAAF, who sits on the committee, said that the individual municipalities or service boards certainly had jurisdiction to do that, to limit it in their area.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we instruct administration to start the process of bringing fusarium to. I don't know. It won't be a noxious weed. What will we call it? It'll be
The pest under the Agriculture Pest Act.
Start the process
Start the process
for our county.
just for their county. I agree. That's what I was going to say.
The message, and we should also send a letter to all our neighboring counties that we're thinking of doing this as well, because I think it's imperative that they understand that we don't want this crap here.
Well, the kicker on there is like I'm quite interested in this thing. And you go to these seed cleaning plants, and you go here, you go there, their meetings in Edmonton there and stuff. And it's the seed growers that want to have a little bit of fusarium. Why? The ones here that don't have it.
Like having a little bit of cocaine in your pot.
Being a little bit pregnant, one of the same thing. It just doesn't work that way, no. And as long as you can keep it at bay and stuff, I agree with your motion. Any input into it, Quentin?
Oh, we can definitely.
That
It's a bylaw process, so it takes time, but it's something that if that's the interest, that's the view. I don't recall.
And we'll read that we send that to. What we'll do is we'll send a letter to our neighboring counties that we're doing this, and then also to the ASB provincial board that we're doing this as well. I don't know if we want to send a letter to. How hard is it to send a letter to every county and? Easy. Well, then let's make it every county in Alberta, every municipality that.
Before I was going to tell you, not just our neighboring ones, but it would be the central zone that we would send them to, at least that.
Yeah, let's make it everybody, so that we typically the county of Stettler is a leader, so let's. Thanks, Andrew.
And it gives you boys some more paperwork.
Get that out of the way.
Their way, or we run you over. That's a good attitude to have. Okay, any more conversation about sending a letter and
Starting the process.
starting the process? No? All in favor of James' letter?
Favor?
Larry's in, right?
Yeah.
And thank you, Mr. Nixon, for your work on the Ag Service,
That was good.
that we have that contact. So.
Good. So that's done. Did we move the year-to-date budget? Yes? Okay, now we're still carrying on way down here. Wayne, you got the other one there too? You want to talk on it? No?
I would take any questions there are from any of those reports.
11, 12, anybody got anything they wanted to ask a question on that? Receive Wayne, well, we'll just receive them all for information at one time. Anybody got any questions on Battle River? I've got one for you about Linda Hunt. When we were in bad shape at Battle River, she is the one they sent down there and straightened it up and got us back on the track again. And we got a new manager and everything else. That was Linda Hunt that done that. Done a very good job. So I think you're fairly blessed to have her, actually.
Yes, and I hope I hope things will work out, because she lives fairly close to Edmonton, within an hour's drive, and she wants to work from home, so that worked good. So, and she does a little bit of contracting work otherwise. So, hopefully this will fill out her what she's living sort of thing.
Oh no, she's a good worker. She does stuff right, and has some avenues with the current government too, which is good. Rest of the Battle River thing, it's on here. We got a new mower. They want to buy a flail mower. We didn't get it. We got a rough cut mower, a third of the price, and that'll outlast 5 of those flail mowers. And the money that we give them was much appreciated because it did lever. We used it for leverage to get a lot more granting, and we're on board. We're going now. We're back up, got our heads above water and floating again. And the seed plant, I probably brought that up before, but the color sorter is going ahead. Plant shut down, and we're in motion to put it in. They have to build onto the plant a little bit. They mortgaged the plant for 200 thou, but like I told them, they'd be getting no money from the county. I said, we're not putting any money into it. It's got to float on its own little boat. If it's such a hot item that it'll pay for itself right away, well, then that's what it'll do, and it'll go along. But we're not bailing them out. So they were your representation at the table. That's what he told me.
At the building straight east of you guys, that they're
We're just going to build it. They just have to build a small piece on to the east. Yes.
big building going to the east. Yeah.
No.
The separator.
No, it's the one that we're building is. I got to go have a look at it. I was by it the other day. I don't think so. The one that's on Themes Yard.
Yeah, this thing.
Yeah. That's a frickin' huge building.
Well, that's not ours. No, this is just a little. What is it? 12 by.
Oh, okay.
Build on, and the only reason for that is you have to heat it because that color sorter has to have in a heated place, or it don't work. So, but it showed us the books of how it's going to pay for itself, work in progress there, and if that works, well, then I have no problem with it. Color sorter wouldn't hurt anything to have it closer for the local farmers to haul to if you've got wild oats in your.
Color sorter, would you be able to get rid of ergot out of?
Takes ergot out. That's ergot, James, is the main thing we'd be taking out.
Okay, but can you get ergot now?
We can, yeah, we get it, but not 100%.
What does it cost you per bushel to do it? What would it cost per?
10 cents.
Another 10 cents. That's well worth it. Well worth it.
They go from 65 to 75, and 10 cents, and away you go. And that they showed us the forecast of what was this and that. They figured it'll work. So, but now she's mortgaged. Carry on. But I think for the local farmers, it's going to be a win-win-win situation. We lost out here 70,000 bushel of wheat they were feeding to the pigs, and we'd had a color sorter, we'd have got it instead of I think Bashaw got it. You were asking a question, Wayne?
Do they have a market for the ergot? Because they do use it in pharmaceuticals of some kind.
I guess so. We'll have to look into that, but that's going to be that was one of my question to them, and they said that they would.
Building. I mean, the Battle River Research Group was doing that for a while. They had that little pellet, and they were.
Yep. I don't know what the toxic stuff off of it would be, though. I don't know. We'd have to look into that. That'll give me a mission. I'll look into that. Maybe we can heat the pool with it. Eh? Charge the town for it. Hey. Anything else? Need a mover to move the reports?
I'll move the reports to be accepted for information.
All in favor?
In favor?
Carried. One opposed. Never. Okay. Now we just.
No, he wasn't, Marlene.
Oh, it wasn't Marlene. He just was slow on the old age. He's been shearing sheep. You know how it goes. Next meeting.
Oh, by the chair.
Okay. You betcha. Thank you. Done. All in favor? Carried.
Carried.